So the New York Giants, I think, made the right move on Black Monday. They sent Pat Shurmur packing. 2 seasons at the helm, 9-23, which ironically enough is the exact same record he had for his 2 seasons a few years back as head coach of the Cleveland Browns, 9-23. When you look at this Giants team, you have to say to yourself, even if you feel like you saw a little bit of progress, did you really ever look at Pat Shurmur and think that's a dude that you could contend with for a championship? Is he the type of leader of men, the game planner, the organizer, the shot caller that you think that you could potentially make it to a Super Bowl with, win a Super Bowl with? And I think beyond question, the vast majority of New York Giants fans would say, hell to the nizzle on that one. So if he's not that dude, there is no reason to persist and insist on continuing with him into year 3 as the head coach of the New York Football Giants. It begs the bigger question of whether or not he should have ever been hired to begin with. But nonetheless, he ultimately was. It ultimately did not work out. And you could say, well, it's risky firing a head coach like this after you've just taken a young quarterback with the 6th overall pick. Do you want to run the risk of changing things up, changing the system, the philosophy, the approach, the leadership around him? It's a valid question. But if anything, I would say if there's ever a time to do it with a young quarterback, it would be after that first year. It's much better than having him spend 2, 3, 4 years in one system and then all of a sudden making the change. If the guy wasn't right, 'tis better to make the move now. Now that said, I will defend Pat Shurmur that I feel like he got a really raw deal here. Like if you look at that New York Giants team in 2018 and you look at him again in 2019, what did you expect out of these guys? Like, what did you think they were going to do? Like the fact that he showed any progress at all should have been signs of a positive thing. Because in no way, shape, or form could you look at the Giants of the past 2 seasons and in any reason look back and say that was a team that could be contending for anything. Wild card, divisional title, like think about it. No way. Absolutely, positively, no freaking way. So as much as I don't think Pat Shurmur is the type of guy as an NFL head coach that can lead you to bigger, better, and great things, the situation certainly did not help him at all. Which brings me to the more important question of, if Pat Shurmur deserved to be fired, why does Dave Gettleman still have a job? Like, isn't that the question for Giants fans right now? Dave Gettleman's the one that hired Pat Shurmur. So one of the most important decisions he could make, he got wrong, and yet he's still allowed to continue. He's the one that built the team that sucked this past 2 years. He's the guy that was the architect of the team that ultimately led to Pat Shurmur getting fired after 2 years. And yet somehow Dave Gettleman still has a job. Why? He's the one that retained Eli Manning, even though you knew this team wasn't going to contend in 2019. You know you had just taken a young quarterback at number 6 overall. But yet then you sit there and start the season with Eli Manning those first 2 games and lose those first 2 games, in large part because Eli Manning's completely and totally washed. And yet you're going to sit there and pay this guy 20-something, whatever the heck, $1 million it was, to be a glorified mentor for Daniel Jones. Was that really worth it? Was it? Was it? And I think that's a very fair question to ask. And then you want to talk about, you were originally planning to not play Daniel Jones much of it at all in 2019, meaning that you knew you took a project at number 6, which then questions whether or not you should really be taking the guy at number 6, especially if you don't think he has super duper high level upside, and I question whether he has that level of upside by any stretch of the imagination. Then you decide you're going to roll into 2019 with Eli Manning with a first-round pick behind him, and all the while pretending that there's some illusion that you can pull something together, pretending there's some illusion that you could contend. But then you sit there and turn around and you trade away Odell Beckham Jr. for first and third round picks, and then you take the first round pick that you got from the Browns, 17th overall, and you spend it on just a younger version of Snacks Harrison and Dexter Lawrence. What the hell are you doing? And then when you trade back up into the bottom of the first round to get a third first round pick, it's on DeAndre Baker. Good player, yes. But how the hell is that helping your young quarterback? Like, this makes no damn sense. This is the same guy that passed down quarterbacks at number 2 overall to sit there and take Saquon Barkley. And Saquon is a stud. He absolutely is. But was it necessary to take the running back number 2 overall, especially when you didn't have the quarterback? And especially when you look back and see how that 2018 draft played out. Especially if you say, okay, well, Sam Darnold still has significant questions. Sure. Josh Allen still has some questions. Sure he does. Then you sit there and say, well, Josh Rosen's a bust. He absolutely is. 2 teams have already taken a quick look and said, thanks, but no thanks, dog. But then you look at, as Lamar Jackson fell in the bottom of round number 1, the Giants didn't trade up to go get him. Imagine if the New York Giants, imagine if Dave Gettleman had sat there and drafted Saquon Barkley and then came back at the tail end of round number 1 and got Lamar Jackson. It would be another one of those LaDainian Tomlinson, Drew Brees types of drafts from 2001. If you did that, the conversation is potentially vastly different, but he didn't do that. Instead, in 2019, he stayed put at number 6 and took a significantly weaker overall prospect in Daniel Jones. And then, when you're talking about whether you want to roll with the veteran Eli Manning for one more reason, for stupid reasons like loyalty that I still don't understand, or you want to roll with the young kid, you trade away the game-breaking weapon on the outside in Odell Beckham Jr. And then spend the first-round pick you get back on a freaking defensive player. And that, potentially, just a glorified replacement of Snacks Harrison. Like, if you're a Giants fan, if you're the Giants organization, why the hell would you have any faith in what Dave Gettleman's doing? Why the hell would you have any confidence that he's the guy that's going to right the ship in New York? He did some good things in Carolina, sure, but that was Carolina. And based off of what we've seen the first 2 years, he ain't trending in that same trajectory or direction. We were talking about it at draft time and before the season started, how what the Giants didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Because it didn't. And the fact that the head coach is gone, but the general manager who hired said head coach still has a job, even though the team has sucked the past 2 years, defies logic and expectations of reason to me. Like, how the hell does that still happen? If Shurmur was bad enough to be gone, so is Gettleman. He should have been given the boot too.